All right, so now we're going to talk about sinusoidal modeling. Okay, so we've been using this formula here, and the important things we know is that A stands for the amplitude, um, B stands for affects the period, and D gives us the principal axis. All right, so in this here, our principal, this revolves around the x-axis. So here we have d equals 0. The amplitude from here to here, the amplitude is equal to 2. And b, we see how many periods are between here to here. Now, this is about cosine waves, and cosines start at the max and end at the max. So since these are all cosine waves, we're starting at the max, ending at the max, and notice it does 2 periods between 0 to 360, so b is equal to 2. Another way to think about it is at 180, it does a full period between 0 to 180, and so if the period is 180, then 360 divided by 2 gives me 180. So anyways, it does 2 cycles between 0 to 360, so b is equal to 2, and we get y is equal to 2 cosine 2x, and there's no change in the principal axis. You may want to hit pause and rewind to hear about this again. Okay, so here it does a full, now this one's stretched out. The full period is from 0 to 720. So if I've got 720 equals 360 divided by b, then I could say b times 720 equals 360, and divide 720 on both sides. B equals 360 divided by 720. B equals 1/2. Okay, you may want to hit pause and think about that for a second. Okay, the amplitude. So first of all, the principal axis is at 2. So our d value is equal to 2 because our principal axis is right here. And the distance between here and here is 1, so the amplitude is equal to 1. So we got b was 1/2, so d is equal to 2. That's our principal axis. So now we can write our equation. Y equals, I don't really need to put 1, but so we got cosine 1/2 x and plus 2. All right, and here, notice it starts at the bottom, so the amplitude is going to be negative, and the distance from here to here. So my principal axis is d is equal to 3, and it goes from 3 down to 0. So my amplitude is equal to 3, right? Because the distance from here to here is 3, and from here to here is 3. Okay, and then the period. So the period, it does a full cycle from 0 to 120. So the period equals 120. So if I have 120 equals 360 over b, b is going to have to be 3, right? Because 360 divided by 3 gives me 120. Okay, so b equals 3, a equals 3, and d equals 3. Wow, what do you know? Okay, so, oh wait, but it's starting down here, so amplitude is -3. So my equation is y equals -3 cosine 3x plus 3. And this is negative because it's starting down here instead of on the top. Oh, we didn't do this one here yet. So once again, this, since it's starting down here, the amplitude is negative, -5, because it's starting here and goes down 5. And since it does a full cycle in 90, the period equals 90, and 360 divided by 90 gives us 4. No, what am I saying? 360 divided by 90, that's going to give us 4. So my period, my B value, is equal to 4. And principal axis is right here at 0, so D equals 0. So my equation is y equals -5 cosine 4x and then plus 0. I don't need to write plus 0. Okay. All right. You may want to hit pause and think about this for a second. I think the trickiest thing is finding the B values. All right. And you can always check your answers. Let's just check this one for a second here. So we have to change the window. So I need to make the X window here. Let's make it to the X max. I'm going to make it 360. And X min can be 0. And Y min, we need to make that -5. And Y max, we need to make that 5, because that's the lowest and highest values of the Y. And let's type in this equation. -5 cosine 4x graph. And if B is 4, we should have 4 waves between 0 and 360. And you could see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 waves. And notice it starts at the bottom like it does here. So it may not be a bad idea to check your answer on the calculator. Once again, you hit Window, change the X max to 360, and change the Y min and Y max to what you see here. Okay. Okay. So the next one here, they want you to plot some points and figure out the amplitude, the period, and the principal axis. So the important thing to remember is on this handout here, S11B, the important formulas or things to remember is that in order to find the principal axis, you take the maximum value plus the minimum value, you add them together and divide by 2, and that's going to give you the middle in between the maximum and the minimum. Okay, so adding the minimum and maximum value and dividing by 2 is going to give me the principal axis. And then subtracting the maximum from the minimum and dividing by 2 is going to give me the amplitude. Okay, so and then the period is 360 divided by B. Okay, so what did we just say? The amplitude is the max minus the min divided by 2. The period is 360 divided by B. The principal axis is the max plus the min divided by 2. And after you plot these points, then you get something like this. So looking at our data here, First of all, let's just talk about the period. We start at, uh, this is with dates, right? We start with month 1 and go to month 12. So going from month 1 all the way to month 12, our period is 12 months. So using the formula, 360 divided by b, we were trying to find b to get our equation, and that's equal to 12, right? So 360 divided by b gives us our period, and our period is 12. So if I divide both sides by 12, multiply both sides by b, we end up with b equals 360 divided by 12, and that's going to give me 30. So my b value is equal to 30. Okay, next, amplitude. We just said the maximum minus the min divided by 2. So my maximum value is this right here at 15.5. And the minimum value is right here at negative 47. And if I subtract those, then I end up with, and divide by 2, we end up with 31.25. Okay. Now, if I add these two together, so 15.5 plus negative 47, then and divide that by 2, I'm going to get negative 15.75. So now I've got my amplitude, my period, and my principal axis, and here is my equation. Okay. Oh, don't forget, this has to be negative. And why is this negative? It's because our cosine wave is upside down. It starts at the lowest value and ends up at the lowest value. So our cosine wave has to be negative here. So at what time does the temperature change the most? It changes the most here and here when the slope is steepest. So between March to May and between September to November. Okay, and during class I said to change this question, at what date will the temperature be negative 20 degrees Celsius? So what we did in class is we're going to hit y equals and just type in our equation. We've got, what's our equation? Negative 31.2 cosine 30x minus 15.75, and we want to find the temperature at negative 20. Okay, and so now I need to change my window, and my x max here is going to be 12. I'm just going to make it 13 for fun. And my y min, let's make it negative 47. And the y max, let's make it 16. Okay. And so I've looked at my graph, and I've used that to help me decide the y min and y max. And now I can graph it, and I'll see the graph that we have here. Okay, and we want to find the intersection. So, but why did the top not show up? Let's see. Why? Maybe I typed in the equation wrong. Negative 31.2. Oh, 0.25. I didn't type it in right. Okay. Make sure you type in the equation right. Okay. So now, Oh. I bet some of you will make this mistake too. Notice here, this parentheses here, I didn't close the parentheses. Okay, now it's going to work. Whew. Good thing I found my mistake. Okay, so the mistake that I just made, I guarantee I'm not I'm not the only one who's going to make that mistake. Closing that parentheses right here is super important because notice we had a different graph. Okay, so we want to find out where they intersect. So just like we've always done, I want to figure out this intersection here. So I do second trace and 5 for intersect. And now I want to find out both of these intersections. So I have to move the blinking X close to it. And now I'm going to hit enter, enter, enter. And I figure it's 2.74. And then same thing over here. I'm going to do second trace 5. And then I'm going to, second trace 5 for intersect, and now I'm going to move this cursor over close to this. I'm hitting the right arrow. Getting closer and closer to this intersection. Now I hit enter, 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 and now I get this intersection is at 9.26. Okay, let's do the next few problems. Okay. All right. The next page, it says plot the data. Okay, so we plotted the data. Okay. Now, find the model for the data using the sine. Okay. Now, if we're using sine, that means we're going to start in the middle of the graph. So, but first let's figure out the period, the amplitude, and the principal axis. So, as I mentioned before, the principal axis is the maximum plus the minimum divided by 2. So if I've got the maximum, which is called 12.7, and the minimum is 4.1, add those together, divide by 2, my principal axis is about 8.4. Okay, so 8.4, here's my principal axis. That looks like it's kind of in the middle, right? All right, so the amplitude, we take the minimum and the maximum and subtract them and then divide by 2, and that gets us the amplitude. So the maximum is I'm using the 12.7, and the minimum I'm using 4.1, and take those and divide by 2, and we get 4.3. Okay, so that gives me the amplitude. Okay, and then the period, well, it starts at 10 and goes to 20. So no, it doesn't. We want, because this, to get the period, we have to start from since this is a sine wave, we need to start from the principal axis and go over here. So how far is it between here and here? So this goes from 12 over to 20. So 12 over to 20, 20 minus 12, this length of this is 8. So my period is 8. And then remember, 360 divided by b gives me the period, or b equals 360 divided by the period, and then that's going to give me 40, and here's my equation. Okay, I'm going to do one more, and the rest will be on a separate video. So I'm just going to show it here and talk about it. Okay, so we plot the data just like this, and notice we start at 1 and go all the way to 12, so my period is equal to 12. So to get my b value, I do 360 divided by the period, and my b value is going to be 30. Then to find the amplitude, it's the maximum minus the minimum divided by 2. So the maximum value is 10, the minimum value is 4. So 10 minus 4 divided by 2. 10 minus 4 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay, the principal axis, you add the maximum and minimum together and divide by 2. So 10 plus 4 gives me 14. 14 divided by 2 gives me 7. So my principal axis is here at 7. The amplitude is 3, so the distance between the principal axis, oh, I just highlighted the wrong number. Okay, let's try this again. Let's use a different color. Principal axis is this right here, 7. Okay. And the amplitude is 3. So the distance between the orange line and the minimum, or the orange line and the maximum, is 3. Okay, so my amplitude is 3. And we found the B value here to be 30. Okay. And this pink line is for part C. Part C says Sam's boat needs the water to be at least 6 meters deep in order for it to safely enter the harbor. Predict the range of hours between which he can sail in and out of the harbor. So the water level needs to be high enough for the boat to go in and out. So so 6 feet. So I drew this line here at 6 meters. Sorry, not 6 feet, 6 meters. And so so this is 6 meters. And so we want to find out when is this curve hit 6 and below 6, because if the water is below here, the boat's going to come ashore and scratch the bottom and leak. Okay, so we need to find those intersections. So let's enter our equation here. So our equation, clear. Okay, so my equation is 3 cosine, right? Cosine 30 x. Now I'm going to close the parentheses because that was the mistake I made in the beginning of the video. Plus 7. Let's see, make sure I typed it in correctly. It looks like I did. Okay, I'm going to go up here, and we want to know when this intersects with the line 6. So I'm going to hit 6. And then once again, we need to change the window for every single one of these. So the x distance is going to be 12. I can leave that at 13. And the minimum I'm going to have is 0, and the maximum at 10. So the y minimum I'm going to change to 0, and the y max I'm going to set at 10. And now we should see my graph. Okay, so this is the pink line, which is at 6 meters. And so I'm going to do second trace and intersect. And I'm going to put this intersection close to there. I'm going to hit enter, enter, enter. And my intersection is at 3.65. And then I need to find this other intersection, second trace, 5 for intersect. And now I'm going to move this little x over to here, right? Now I hit first curve, I hit enter, second curve, I hit enter, guess, I hit enter, and my intersection is at 8.35. Okay, so Sam needs to enter the harbor before 3 or after 8 in order not to come aground. And the next part will be in a separate video.